This story will be very useful for you, so listen to the story till the end, and also share it with your friends so that they can also be useful. Hey everyone, my name is Jake. I'm 26 years old and I'm from Brazil. But 5 months ago, I could not speak a single full sentence in English, not even "how are you," without thinking too much. I was completely lost. Today, I want to tell you how I learned English in just 5 months, without any expensive classes, without going to an English-speaking country, and without wasting my time on useless methods. But this is not just my story, this is your story too. If you've ever felt frustrated, stuck, or embarrassed because of your English, keep watching, because I was exactly where you are. And I promise, if you listen to my full journey step by step, you'll know exactly how to improve your English. So let's go back to the beginning, because my journey didn't start with motivation. It started with a big failure that changed my life. The moment that changed everything. I always wanted to work for an international company. My dream job was to be a software engineer at a big tech company. I loved coding. I was good at it, and I worked day and night to become the best. Finally, after years of hard work, I got my chance. I applied for a huge company in the US. The recruiter emailed me, "Congratulations, you are selected for an interview." I was so excited, I imagined my life in a new country, earning a big salary, working with the best people. But then the interview happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. I opened Zoom and there were 3 interviewers, all native English speakers. They started speaking and I felt like someone had pressed fast forward on their voices. I could not understand anything. They asked me the first question, "Jake, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in software development?" I panicked. I knew the answer in my head, but the words didn't come out. I said, "Yes, I am software. I do coding, many projects good. I am very good." They looked at me. The silence felt like a knife in my stomach. They asked another question, but I couldn't answer that either. In the end, one of them smiled and said, "All right, Jake, thank you for your time." I knew what that meant. I had failed. I didn't get the job, not because I wasn't good enough in my field, but because I couldn't speak English. That day, I understood the power of English. It wasn't just a language, it was the key to my dream. And right now, I didn't have that key. I felt ashamed, embarrassed, angry at myself. For years I told myself, I don't need English. I'll just be good at my job, and that'll be enough. But now I saw the truth, without English, I was invisible. That night I made a decision. I would learn English and I would learn it fast. Most people, when they start learning English, they do one thing first, they pay for expensive courses. But I didn't do that. Why? Because I had already tried them before, and they didn't work. A year ago, I paid for an online English class. The teacher made me memorize vocabulary lists, do grammar exercises, and study boring rules. But after 3 months, when I tried to have a conversation, I still couldn't speak. So I knew that expensive classes were not the answer. If I wanted to learn English fast, I needed something different. I needed a system that worked in real life. That's when I started my 5-month method, which I will share with you now, step by step. Part 1, the first 15 days. The biggest mistake that beginners make is thinking they need more words. I thought the same. I thought, if I learn 1,000 words, I'll speak fluently. But the truth is, I already knew hundreds of words. Yet I still couldn't speak. So for the first 15 days, I didn't study any new words. Instead, I did something much more powerful. I started learning how to use the words I already knew. Here's exactly what I did. 1. I made a survival sentence list. I sat down and thought, what do I actually need to say every day? I wrote 50 simple sentences that I needed in real life. For example, hi, how are you? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. I am learning English. I need a coffee, please. Every morning I read these 50 sentences out loud, not once, not twice, 10 times. At first, my tongue felt slow. But after 5 days, these sentences became automatic. 2. I started speaking to myself in English every single day. This is one of the most powerful things I did. Whenever I was alone, I spoke English to myself. For example, when I was in the shower, I said, I am taking a shower. The water is hot. I feel relaxed. When I made breakfast, I said, I am making eggs. I like eggs. They are easy to cook. At first, I felt stupid, but then I realized this was my private classroom. No one could hear me. No one could judge me. And in just 1 week, my brain started thinking in English. 3. I practiced 5 sentences a day, but with a twist. Every day I chose 5 sentences from movies or real conversations. But I didn't just read them, I copied them exactly. I repeated them 10 times, but with the same emotion, speed, and pronunciation as the native speaker. This helped me fix my accent and sound natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something changed. I stopped translating in my head. I could say basic sentences without thinking. I felt more confident. But this was just the beginning. Because after 15 days, I started the real practice. Part 2, the real practice begins. After fixing my biggest mistake, I was finally ready to take the next step. I could say basic sentences without thinking. I felt more confident, but I knew this wasn't enough. I didn't want to just say short sentences. I wanted to have real conversations. I wanted to understand native speakers without translating in my head. I wanted to speak fluently. So I created a new plan that would change everything. I realized something important when I tried to speak English. my brain was slow. I knew words, but I couldn't put them together quickly. I needed a way to make speaking feel natural. I started using a method I now call the question-answer method. This method is simple but powerful. Here's how it works. 1. I asked myself a simple question in English. 2. I answered it immediately, without thinking too much. 3. I repeated the process with different answers. For example, the question, "What did you do today?" At first, my answer was short, "I worked." But I forced myself to say more, "I worked on my project." I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break and had some coffee. Every time I answered, I added more details. This trained my brain to think in English and speak without hesitation. I did this every day for at least 30 minutes. My speaking speed improved dramatically. My sentences became longer, and I stopped translating in my head. I also worked on pronunciation, which was a big issue for me. I still sounded like a foreigner, even when native speakers understood me. So I used the echo technique. I listened to a native speaker, from movies, YouTube, or podcasts, paused after each sentence, and repeated the sentence with the same speed, tone, and emotion. At first, it felt difficult. But after repeating 10 times, my voice started to sound similar. I did this every day for 30 minutes. After 1 month, native speakers started saying, "Wow, your English sounds really natural." For vocabulary, I stopped memorizing word lists. Instead, I used the story method. I took 5 new words each day and created a short story using all 5. I read the story out loud 10 times and used the words in real conversations. Another problem? Thinking in my native language first. I trained my brain to think in English by describing everything around me in English, asking myself questions and answering in English, and writing my daily journal in English. And I made a strict rule: speak English for at least 2 hours every day. No excuses. Part 3, My Final Breakthrough. By now, I had built strong habits, but I wanted more. I realized that just speaking and listening wasn't enough. I needed to understand the grammar too. I paid attention to how native speakers structured sentences, like "I have been learning English for 5 months" instead of "I am learning English for 5 months." I also tackled prepositions, writing down confusing ones like "on the bus" versus "in the car." I started writing a daily diary, copying the style of native writers. I practiced shadowing, repeating after native speakers in real time. I watched movies with subtitles, paused after each sentence, and repeated it with focus on tone and rhythm. The biggest shift? Confidence. I made a decision: I would not be afraid of making mistakes. I started speaking English at work, at the store, with friends even when I felt unsure. And people understood me. They didn't laugh. This gave me the courage to speak to native speakers. I prepared 10 common conversation topics and practiced them daily. I joined online groups and made friends from around the world. Finally, I tested myself in a real conversation, and I nailed it. No hesitation, no confusion. I understood others, and they understood me. 5 months after I started, I reapplied for the same job. This time, I was confident. I walked into the interview as someone who owned the English language. And guess what? I got the job. My starting salary? $5,000 a month. More than I had ever imagined. I called my parents, my mom cried, my dad said, "We always knew you could." I bought him a beautiful watch. I bought my mom a gold necklace. And I told them, "Thank you for believing in me." Key lessons I learned. 1. Mindset is everything. If you think you can't, you won't. Believe you can. 2. Surround yourself with English. Make it part of your life. 3. Speak without fear. Mistakes are part of learning. 4. Practice active listening and shadowing. 5. Expand vocabulary in context, not word lists. 6. Learn grammar by using the language, not studying rules. 7. Be consistent. Do something every day, even just 10 minutes. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need a perfect environment. You need desire and consistency. Imagine yourself 6 months from now speaking fluently and confidently. Start today. Speak. Listen. Practice. Never give up. If I can do it, you can do it too. Let's do this together. If this story has been very useful for you, then like this story, share it and subscribe to our channel.